Hey guys, Eric here. I'm going to be going over some arcade work that I've done with the Salt mod today. So this is for new players, probably Gold League and below. I'm Plat and I'm still finding this useful, so your mileage may vary there. I think probably by the time most people get to Plat, Diamond, or so, they kind of have already figured out how they like to practice and how they like to train. But I could be totally wrong. If I am, and you're high up there and you find this to be a useful technique, definitely let me know. It's interesting to me how people learn and what strategies and stuff are useful to them, particularly because, hopefully one day I'm going to need to train at that level as well. So, yeah. What we're going to talk about today, first, just basics of Salt mod in the arcade. I'm going to hit mindset and approach in terms of what you should use this for and how you want to be thinking about it. We're going to talk about how buggy Salt can be and how to work around that, and some of the bugs that even are being worked around in my mods. We're going to talk about customizing Salt options, and then just a little bit on kind of moving forward from after this video. I want to also say I didn't make all of this. There has been a ton of community work. The Salt mod is by Finite Turtles. That's kind of his brainchild. And this whole sort of idea of making an arcade map with that is not something that I made up. I'm just utilizing this. The build is also not mine. Both of the builds that I'm going to show you today are by LHK. So all this is me showing you a technique that I'm using to train, and these maps are publicly available for anybody in the community to go and find them. So the way that you're going to do that is, you already saw we clicked into arcade here. You're going to hit browse, and you're going to type ARET, and you're going to hit search. And you're going to see here my PvZ practice with my Adept Immortal Sentry, and my PvT practice with Vast Double Forge and some tech. And these are just kind of some sort of simplistic builds that have a very, very clear attack timing. So these are going to be really good for anybody who is struggling to refine their macro in the early game and really kind of tighten things up. They're also going to be especially good for players who kind of have a psychological profile that's like mine as a player, where they really just want to like hunker down and macro and defend, and you might find yourself being really passive and never attacking. Both of these builds are designed to give you a point in time where it's like, okay, you get this and then you go. And so those are kind of the two places where I think you might get value out of this. As I kind of use these more, I might be adding other builds that kind of do different things. But those are kind of the places where right now, today, as of this video, you can kind of gain some value. For folks who want to jump around, I'm going to provide timestamps, kind of down there in the description or whatever. So if you want to skip to any of these sections that we're going to talk about, you'll be able to do that. So why don't we go ahead and launch into the PvT, and I'm just going to give you kind of the very, very basic rundown of what Salt is and how it works if you are somebody who's coming in totally fresh and you've never seen it before. So this is just going to load up a custom game. The AI opponent almost really doesn't matter. I kind of like to have one in there just for scouting purposes. In this video, we're actually not going to scout. We're not going to interact with the opponent at all, but generally I do kind of leave one in there, and I actually do walk across the map and kill them at the end. You probably don't want it to be the hardest kind of AI that you can kill, because you want to be focused on what you're doing. So as we load in here, what you're going to see is on the left of our screen, we're going to get kind of some visual indicators of what our build should be. So this works very much like sort of your Overwolf or something like that, but the difference is that you're going to hear these gillyweed voiceovers, right? So it's almost in the same way that you get like Nova yelling at me to make pylons or whatever. Here, we'll listen. So she already told me to make a pylon, so I'll wait for the next one. So you hear her say warp in a gateway, right? So it's going to walk me through my entire build, and at each step, I'm going to get prompted to make my next building. And then if, for instance, I don't make my assimilator on time here, right, so she's telling me to do it, we're supposed to make it by 48, right? If I make it a little bit late, we're still going to get a check mark. But if, for example, we go all the way to 122 and we don't take our nexus, and if we blow past this supply as well, what we're going to see is an X mark here. So those are some of the failure conditions. I think another one, although I'm not actually 100% certain, is if you build other stuff that you're not supposed to make. Right, so in a second here, we're going to go to 20 supply. Pretty shortly, we're going to blow past the 122, and then I'm just going to throw down another random building. Okay, so we're at 20 supply. I'm just going to build like another... I'm going to build a forge. Right, that's clearly wrong. This isn't HOTS, right? So, okay, we already see Salt doing buggy things, right? So it isn't showing that I didn't get my nexus, which is kind of weird. So like here, we're getting an X. It's like, okay, hey bro, you made your gateway like at totally the wrong time. Maybe if I did the Cybercore, we would see that as well. No, because that was close on time. Well, anyway, you get the idea. Even if it doesn't give you the nice X mark, like I say, Salt has some odd behaviors at times. You do still see, like before my build order was kind of advancing, we're getting this like scroll effect, and we don't actually have that anymore. It will actually hang until I go down and I make that nexus. I think at this point it's probably bugged out to the point where like nothing good is going to happen anymore. We're going to get into a short discussion of kind of some of these bugs. Okay, there it is. So it's showing me the X now that I finally made it. It's like, okay, this is the point in your build where you screwed up. So, okay, you kind of get the idea of sort of how this works. I'm going to go ahead and quit out for now. And we're going to talk just a little bit about that mindset and approach thing that I mentioned before. So what I don't want you to do is do all of your practice in this arcade map. Because if you do that, you're going to find yourself very, very reliant on having Gillyweed's voice in your ear, like, make this, make pylons, whatever. And that doesn't reflect ladder, that doesn't reflect custom games you're going to play, it doesn't reflect sort of the real world, as it were. And it's also not forcing you to remember your build. So those are all really, really important, right? So what I want you to do instead is I want you to use these arcade maps to get a feel for what is it like to make these buildings on time. So you're going to come in, if you're like bronze or silver, you're going to come in and you're going to get thrown on your butt. Like, you're going to make everything late, it's going to feel terrible, you're going to get 5 buildings in before you made a mistake. That's totally fine. Do that until it doesn't feel good. So if 10 minutes of that has you feeling kind of bad and like this is just work and you're not having fun anymore, just stop right there. And go play some ladder, or go play a custom game with your friend, or whatever it is. Do it in doses that you can handle. And what you'll find is eventually you are going to be able to place the buildings down, right? And you're going to have this epiphany moment, at least I did, where you go, holy crap, like, okay, my brain and my hands are capable, theoretically speaking, of placing these buildings on time. And with both of these builds, the timings are somewhat generous. Like, these are not, these builds are both done by a very good player, but it's kind of done in a way where the timings are sandbagged a little bit so that you don't feel as terrible as you could. So like I say, these are not like highly optimized builds, right? This is not like, I didn't rip this from Stats last GSL game, right? You could do that if you wanted to, but I think that for newer players, this is helpful to do with kind of a little bit of breathing room. So I want you to get that sense of what is it like for just your body to be doing the build and to be thinking through the build with a little bit of help. And then I want you to load up a custom, and I want you to try to do the build on your own. Because if you never do that, you're going to get into ladder and you're going to be like, oh shoot, like, what do I do? Like, Gillyweed isn't telling me what to make, and I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like, is it Twilight or Robo first? You're going to have this icky feeling. So you might even alternate, right? That like 10 or 15 minutes, however much you'll kind of tolerate that I described before.
We don't have enough minerals.
You might even alternate which of these you do, to where, one day you might practice it in the arcade map, and one day you might practice it just kind of on your own. Be like, okay, like, how do I do my build? All right, the first thing that I make is a pylon. I want to put it near the gas because it's a PvT, and then I'm going to wait, and I'm looking. When do I have 150 minerals? And I want to move the probe over maybe even a little bit early so that I don't mess it up, right? I want to make sure, okay, do we have the 150? I'm going to click. All right, cool. And I want you to work through the build that way. And what you're going to find is there'll come a point where you mess the build up, right? So there's this sort of psychological thing where in order to remember stuff, you have to try to dredge it up when you almost have forgotten it. That's the best way to force in memory. The source on that is a book called Make It Stick, which is a really, really good book. I recommend anybody who's into StarCraft read that just so that you have a better idea of kind of how your brain works. It's one of the best sort of like layman's guides, like cognitive science type stuff that I've encountered. So alternate between these two. Don't just rely on this arcade map. But I do want to jump back in there and kind of talk about just a couple of bugs that I've encountered. So one thing that happens sometimes is you'll get to the end of the build order and it'll loop, which is really, really odd. So you'll see at the very beginning here, if I'm quiet enough and I don't blab, you'll hear at the beginning it says make workers. And sometimes when you get to the end of the build order, it goes make workers again, and then it just restarts everything. At that point, just quit out because nothing good is going to happen from there. I'm going to be quiet for a second here.
We don't have enough minerals.
So there's that, right?
Need more minerals for that.
Warp in a pylon.
We don't have enough minerals.
Down there.
That'll cost more minerals.
So I'm going to play through this up until the 211 mark. And then I want to show you guys one kind of weird thing that I can't figure out. I'm just going to leave this guy here and not scout just so that we make sure that we hit all of our timings here, which we're already about to not do.
We don't have enough minerals.
Okay, cool. Crisis averted. So we're just playing through our build here, and what you're going to see is when I get to Warp Gate, we do something kind of janky. Not the best by any stretch. And if anybody knows why this happens or what I need to do to fix it, I am so open to that. I would be thrilled if somebody could tell me what to do. Because it feels like this bug should not exist, and yet it does.
That'll cost more minerals than we have.
Sorry, I'm just trying really hard to hit all these timings so that I can get through the video and show you guys what I'm talking about here. So I'm a little bit quiet. Why? Okay, so this is going to be done in a second here. We're going to need to get Vectorino. Oh, shoot. We need gas. This, by the way, is my focus goal for tonight, is remembering to do that. As funny as that sounds. So we make an adapt. And then we're going to see a pop-up here that just says, get working. Which is, okay, so see that? This is not a Gillyweed voiceover, and it does not check that I make it. Right? I have not made it yet. We have a check there. This little I means information. What this is actually for is saying things like, go attack your opponent, or scout their third, or whatever, anything that the build kind of has in its plan that the salt mod can't like actually grab onto and check. And the reason that I'm doing that is every time I included work gate research, like the actual salt thing that checks if I do it, my build would hang and it would stop scrolling. So if anybody out there knows how to fix that, please let me know. Or go ahead and grab my maps. They're open for modification, and just tweak it and re-upload it. Like I'm happy to pull mine down if somebody else wants to do a better job. There are a lot of things that you can do with salt that I haven't done. So you can actually like pan the camera to this gas and say, take this gas. You pan the camera there again and be like, box 3 workers, put them in there. These are kind of just quick and dirty arcade maps for my own purposes. If people really, really enjoy this, then we can definitely, refine them a little bit more. So those are kind of some of the common weirdnesses. I already talked about kind of stuff here being a little bit unintuitive sometimes. And then the warp gate is the other one that's a little bit funny. I had the same problem with the glaive upgrade. So I actually couldn't even find the glaive upgrade in Salt at all, which is funny because it does actually know about adepts, right? So I'm not sure what's up there. I have an email out to Turtles, but if anybody has the answer to that one too, let me know. So, okay, we have talked about the basics of Salt. We've talked about mindset. We've talked about some common bugs. And now I just want to go through some options for anybody who's new here, because it took me a little bit of figuring out. So you notice that this menu is different from the normal one. So if I click into Salt options, you're going to see a few things here. In build order options, you have all of these crazy things, right? So like I can have it show hotkeys. I can show the icon. I almost pointed with my hand at these. That's not going to help you guys. I can show the icons or not. I can show the checkboxes or not. Supply and time if you want to only think about one or the other, and obviously the name. So if having it this fat is disruptive to you, like for me, whenever I take my third in my PBT on this map, I'm like, holy crap, I can't even see this third. So shortening it might help you, might make you feel a little less claustrophobic. You can fade the steps, you can have a frame or not a frame, you can adjust how many you see at once. For me, I like seeing just enough that it doesn't cover the timer, and that number for me is 17. I think that might be resolution dependent, but I like to still see the clock here, so I know kind of, right, where am I in my build. And then transparency, of course, you know what that does. You can move it around with these offsets. It's kind of the gist of the options. And then I already, I kind of did things a little bit out of order, but I already kind of talked about moving forward. So I will be doing more of these. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm not planning on cranking out a ton. This started out as a thing kind of for my personal usage, and I was talking to some people on my Twitch channel, and they thought that it would be useful for them. So I wanted to kind of make that available for anyone who is new or anybody who just thinks this could benefit them. Anybody can download the StarCraft map editor and make one of these. Finite Turtles and Jack Attack both have some good guides on this. Those guys have done a lot of work, prior to me ever existing publicly in StarCraft. So check out their content for sure on this. They do a much better job of covering it than I ever could. But I just wanted to kind of approach this from the mindset of a new player who wants to help himself learn, and kind of give you guys just a brief rundown of how to use it. And if you don't want to mess with editing maps and stuff like that, you can always just kind of follow along with me. Probably the next one that I'm going to do will be a PvP build. And I might just stick on those 3, having one for each race for a while and just try to refine my macro. I really don't believe strongly in the notion of pursuing lots of different builds, like, Sky Toss is good on this map and whatever, until you get better. Because let's face it, like if I can't remember to put my little buddies in this second gas on time, what am I doing trying to do meta-specific stuff on a certain map, right? So yeah, I hope that for people who have a similar mindset to me, that this helps you kind of refine your mechanics, and I hope that you'll take a healthy approach to it. Don't do this until the game is so unfun that you never want to touch it again, right? Do it a little bit. Do it to your tolerance, and let me know how it goes for you. The best place to get me is always on Twitter. Super, super responsive. I probably check it way too much. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys, and I hope that this video helped you. Thanks. Take care.